Come to part 2 of the periodic table. So this is where now we'll start looking at each group individually. So for those of you joining me for the first time, I'm Blessing and I teach chemistry, math, physics, biology and other subjects. So don't forget to subscribe, share to your friends and comment where you are not understanding. Yeah. So to begin, first you need to understand the name. What are group 1 elements? So for those that have watched my previous video or my part 1, I'll leave the link in the description. So be sure to go check out my part 1 before you watch part 2. Yeah. So we said that group 1 elements are known as the alkali metals. Yeah. And why are they known as the alkaline metals? Because they react, so they are called alkaline metals because they react with the water to form a alkaline or basic solution. So whenever you hear alkaline or basic solution, whatever should come into your mind is group 1 elements, which are known as the alkaline metals. So that's the thing which you need to understand on group 1 elements. So after understanding what group 1 elements are, you need now to understand what exactly are the elements in group 1. Because if you understand what they mean and you don't know what elements are in group 1, of course you get the question wrong. Yeah. So the elements in group 1 are lithium, sodium, potassium, rubidium, calcium, and francium. Yeah. So these are the elements which you find in the periodic table in group 1. Yeah, so of course you don't need to memorize each and every element on the periodic table because it is always given to you. The periodic table is always given to you. So there is no need of there is no need of memorizing. Yeah. So now that we have understood what elements are found in group 1 and what they are called, next we need to know how you can identify 3 major elements on our periodic table. So the 3 major elements you need to pay attention to in group 1 are these 3: lithium, sodium, and potassium. So these are the 3 most important elements in group 1. So you need to know the identification test. How you can know that, okay, this is the lithium reacting, this is sodium, this is potassium. So lithium, so whenever lithium is reacting, it always burn with a lead flame. So whenever lithium is reacting, it always burns with a lead flame. Then sodium burns with a yellow or orange flame. So whenever you see an a yellow or orange flame, just know that this is oxygen reacting with it. So always remember that this is the sodium reacting with the oxygen. Then the last one is the potassium. So how can you identify that this is the potassium? So potassium basically has a pinkish flame. So whenever you see a pinkish flame, just know in your mind that these elements they are talking about is in group 1. So these are the questions they like asking on the periodic table. So you need to pay attention. Okay, so now that we have understood how you can identify, next we are going to look at how how elements in group 1 are basically stored, because these elements are very, very reactive. So they need to be stored somewhere safe, because if they are stored carelessly, they will cause injuries and accidents, because they react very vigorously with air and water. Yeah. So what is the storage? So the storage is these elements in group 1 are stored under oils to prevent them from reacting with air and water. So remember, they are stored under oil. Why? Because oil will prevent them from reacting with water and air. Yeah. So the why part is the important thing in chemistry. So in chemistry, each question they will ask you for a reason. So you have to understand why this is happening. Yeah. So if most of you can agree with me, if you get the past paper for chemistry and start going through questions, approximately half of the question you will see they are why questions. Why does this belongs to group 1? Why is this? So you need to understand the reason. Yeah, not memorizing. So why are group 1 elements stored under oil? Because oil prevents them from reacting with the air and H2O, which is the water. Yeah, so now I've looked at the name, identification, storage, and examples of group 1 elements. Now moving on to the most important part of group 1 element, which you need to pay extra attention. The physical and chemical properties. So this is where I need you to pay particular attention. So the physical properties are a lot. Yeah, and the chemical properties also are a lot. So we have 5 physical properties and also 6 chemical properties of group 1 elements. So you need to understand these properties. So I'll divide them into 2. So this side we have physical properties. Then this side we have chemical properties. Yeah. So what are the physical properties of elements in group 1? So the first physical properties you need to understand is that the elements in group 1 are soft and can be cut. So group 1 elements are soft metals. Yeah. Can be cut by a knife. So this is the first physical properties which you can see with your eyes. When you get sodium, you can cut it with a knife. When you get potassium, you can cut it with a knife because it is a soft metal. Then the second one is the most common one. They are good conductors of heat and electricity. Heat and electricity. Yeah, so the second thing, since they are metals, we know that all metals are good conductors of electricity and heat. So this second property is just a common knowledge property. Then the third one is they have low density, but here you have to understand it well. So when we say they have low densities, we mean that their density is very low, that they float on water. So whenever you get lithium, sodium, potassium, rubidium, they will float on water. So these properties I'm telling you are the properties which would distinguish each group from the other. Yeah. Then when we talk about the low density, so the low density will increase as we are going down. So meaning this lithium will have the smallest density, then francium will have the highest density. So this property, they also ask which of the elements, which element among the elements in group 1 has the highest density. So it is francium. The one with the lowest is lithium. You have to move from up going down. Their density will be increasing. Then the fourth thing is the melting point. So the melting point decreases as you go down. So remember, the first thing is the density increases as you are going down, but the melting point and boiling point decreases as you go down. And you have to take into note that group 1 elements have a low melting point. So it keeps on getting lower and lower as you are moving from down, as you are moving from up to down. So meaning francium has the lowest boiling and melting point, whilst it also has the highest density. Yeah, so you need to understand the boiling point and density are different. When you are going down in terms of density, the density will increase, but the boiling point decreases. The next thing is the reactivity increases as you go down the group. So the last physical property is that the reactivity increases as you go down. So these properties I'm saying, they increase as you go down. These are the properties which they like asking. So you need to remember them: the boiling point, the density, and the reactivity. So these three things are the most important properties on physical properties. So you need to understand these three properties very well. So now moving on to our chemical properties. What are our chemical properties? So the chemical properties, these are properties which allow an element to form bonds with other elements. Yeah, or to react with other elements. So the first chemical properties which you come across under elements in group 1 is that their outermost shell has only one electron. Yeah. So as or have a single electron in the outermost shell. Yeah. So we can have lithium which has 2,1, sodium which has 2,8,1. So these are just the examples of some elements which are present in group 1 with a single element. So remember, each element in group 1 has one electron in its outermost shell. That's why we are saying the electrons in the outermost shell determines the group. Because in group 1 they will have a single electron, in group 2 they will have 2, in group 3 they will have 3, just like that. Then the second properties which you need to understand is that they lose electron. They lose this single electron to form ions. So they lose single electron to form ions with a positive charge, So whenever a metal loses an electron, it becomes positive. Remember this. Then the fourth chemical properties which you need to understand is that they react with oxygen. So they react with oxygen to form what? To form basic oxide. So what is a basic oxide? So a basic oxide, this is an oxide which is formed from group 1 elements. So we can have lithium reacting with what? Oxygen to form what? Lithium oxide as our basic oxide. So this is solid, this is gas. Then when they react, they form lithium oxide, which you can balance like this. Yeah. So remember, every element in group 1 will form this equation. So sometimes they bring you to write an equation which is formed if this and this react. Yeah. Then the fourth chemical property is that they react with what? Water to form metal hydroxide and the hydrogen. Yeah. So whenever an element in group 1 react with water, the product will always be sodium hydroxide plus H2, which is our hydrogen gas. So these are the 4 properties which you need to understand on group 1 elements, and these are the physical properties which you need to understand in group 1. So this is where each and every question will come from group 1 elements. So in the next video, we are going to talk about group 7 elements, which are known as halogens.